Also, Siddharth, can you explain how are product specs or PRD is written at Headout?
For sure, for sure. So let's talk about product specification in general, right?
Right.
And then we'll move to an example. One of the critical things you're going to do as a product manager is communicate, and one of the primary ways you will communicate is written documentation, right?
Right.
Written or visual documentation, right? I like to think, at least for myself, PRDs and these written documentation and prototypes are the biggest communication tools, right? So prototyping is another skill set in UX you want to pick up as a product manager, because you sit down, you draw diagrams, say, imagine this happens, then imagine this happens. No one can imagine, right?
Right.
Like you're a product person, you can imagine. Just build a prototype and send it out, and you don't need anybody to imagine. People are on board. Some of the most successful product managers I've seen, how they have convinced an entire company and got them on board onto a new idea. They just sent a killer prototype, and killer prototype, I don't mean like full polish and everything. It just showed, it was really basic wireframe prototype, but it showed the basic concept and the
Right.
aha moment, right, of the product. What is the core proposition, value proposition of the product? They were able to communicate using a prototype, and that got them to places, right? So prototyping will also help you do specification, because it helps you think in how this product will be chunked out, right? So one of the primary reasons of you writing a product specification is there are three things you will define. What the why does the product exist, for whom, and what does it achieve? Second thing is, what is this product? How does it behave? How does it function? What are the requirements? And third is all the glue in between, right?
Okay.
Because this product requires content writers. This product requires media ops. This product requires, at the same time, UX design, then backend engineering, then front end engineering, then QA work, then legal work, then the contract signing, then category managers, ops work,
Okay.
communication
Lot
of
process
SOP,
and
support.
then.
Right. So that
Right.
is, so the central piece, typically,
Mhm.
what you write a central document, a single source of truth, when you're starting a new product, which is typically called a PRD, a product requirement document, right? And let's, in fact, look at a product requirement document
Yeah.
to see how it looks like at Headout. And I'll just share my screen. So now you're looking at, at my screen, and this is a product requirement document of something we call vouchers and tickets.
Right.
Now, what are vouchers and tickets? You can check out on my YouTube channel. There is a full case study on how we design tickets. But this is the PRD for that, right? Now, the first thing you see is the goal, right? That the
Right.
goal of this is to create a system where we standardize, we can improve customer communication, allow future improvement and improve efficiency in various parts of the system, right? Of course, they can be better defined, but this was what we knew at the starting point.
Right.
And the product will be successful within 60 days of launch if we are able to reduce customer support tickets raised around these 3 points. So it clearly defines what is the success criteria for this product, right? If you're able to see this versus today, then your product is successful, right? So this is typically the first part of, you're introducing the product. What the hell does this product do? For whom is it? For whom is it become next, which is user personas. These differ from user personas in design, because here you're just describing different users of the same product, right? The
Correct.
same product, uh, primary user is customer, of course, of a ticket, but operations staff also generates that ticket. They add
Right.
details to it. Vendor ground staff verifies that ticket, right? And your support staff gives you support around that ticket. And this is what you define around how do these different personas or users of your product interact with that product. What are their goals to that product, right? So this allows you to make sure that you cover all these sides, right? If
Right.
a operator or is allowed to change a detail, then the customer and ground staff should be notified. If a customer is allowed to raise a support ticket, then support staff needs to have access to that ticket, right? So you can't miss out building these pieces. So that's when you start to realize, as a designer, most likely you're going to be working on the customer side of the bits, right?
Correct.
But
Exactly.
uh, a lot of times you're working on other side as well, because vendor may be using API to do this, right?
True.
And that's what you don't deal as a designer. So this is what you define. What are the aspects, different interaction, human beings, types of human beings that interact with your product? Then we come to something called a business process flow, which is what often you would hear in engineering as business logic, right? How does business logic differ from let's say programming logic? Business logic revolves around critical business decisions. So I'm going to show you one of the diagrams in we these are called swim lane diagrams. Now, swim lane diagrams are typically just your flowchart diagrams. But
Right.
what they have unique is they have lanes, like who's doing what sort of thing, right? So I'm just going to try and open this. I hope this works. And there we go. It worked.
So lane is something engineering students come across to, at least computer science students come across. But for a lot of other
Right.
folks, it's very new.
Right. So this is a flowchart diagram with
Right.
lanes, right? And here we have lane of a user and a system, right, which is our system, and the staff and the vendor. At times we have we split them up if there's like dual role, right?
Right.
So now this system is describing, various functions. For example, it's describing booking flow, ticket generation, customer notification, generating ticket URL, and various functions in this
Right.
operation, right? So we are looking at the flow of how booking flow works. A customer attempts booking, right? And does it work? Is the payment successful, right? If no, then you retry and the loop goes back. This I think was edited. Some bug is here. This should say yes, right? So if it was successful, then is booking automated. Then no, and then you add it to manual queue, which will be processed by a person. If it's automated, then you attempt a booking. Then all of that goes on, right? And then
Right.
you decide, okay, was it successful? Yes. Then you go to this different process, which is ticket generation, which is a different tab here, right?
Yeah.
And if you were not successful, then you make X amount of attempts. This is a business decision. How many times you attempt before
Correct.
giving up. And if you have made X attempts, then you say booking failed and you initiate a refund. If no, then you keep retrying, right? So this is the simple booking process flow of how do you, and now how does it differ from, engineering process? Because we are not defining in what service it happens and what code is it written, how
Right.
many times is it, like, we are not defining any of those failure points that are different APIs, none of that. This is the business logic, that this is how business thinks about this entire process, right? And now in different engineering departments can take different calls, right? For backend, this is a different service. For front end, this is a different kind of chart, right? For front end, these are states, that you will have this state, you will have failure state, you will have this state, you will have this state, you will have this state. All of these states will be there, right?
Right.
So this is a business process flow. There can be multiple kind of flows like that. The
Yeah.
second thing, and this is describing the 4 processes that we have described, right?
Right.
Then we come to something called a logical data model. This is typically a entity relation map. This one is
Okay.
not done right now, but I can show you an example. Bunch of example exist online. Like you can see, this is essentially a DB field.
Right.
This is one of the best example, right? This is for IMDb. You can see, and what it does is you have author, you have publisher, which is connected to ISBN. This is for actually just for a publishing house, right?
Right.
Who you can have a warehouse, you can have a shopping cart, and then a customer. So this is how these various entities relate to each other. This is essentially
Correct.
describing DB structures.
This is
You
where
want to trying to say tell.
this is where the PMs need to know some knowledge about databases.
Correct. And
Right.
engineering, right? What data are you storing? Why are you storing?
Exactly.
How does it relate to other is it an audit trail
Right.
versus some static data storage? Decisions around this is where you can start discussion with engineering around, hey, is it more optimal to store this data in a separate table because it frequently changes? What is our strategy there? What is the future scope of this data? And all of that comes in,
Right.
right? Um, Typically, a lot of folks do this. Product managers do this. A lot of companies require engineering managers to do this. This can change person to person. You are the owner of this product, of this PRD, not necessarily writer of this entire piece, right? Maybe it's too complex. Maybe the data models are related to AI and ML. So you only understand the inputs that can be given, not the in-between processes. So maybe you don't write those in-betweens, right? But you own, and the fact that these need to be written and decided is your own ownership,
Right.
right? As a product manager. Then we come to the biggest chunk of product PRD, which is functional requirements. A functional requirement is essentially what needs to be done. What are we creating, right? Most of this will be around new capacity, engineering capacity, etc. that you have to build, new
Correct.
products functions that you have to write, or new services that you have to create. The first thing is obviously you generate headout tickets, right? So we are telling them that these 2 kind of tickets you will generate, and then a rough wireframe is given, right? And the detailed designs will be linked,
Right.
right? Because we can't keep, as the designs evolve, we can't keep coming back to it. This is just to
Exactly.
give you an idea, right? And one of the crazy things that comes in question is, should product managers create wireframes? Sure, like if you don't have designer, create wireframes, but if you do have design team, etc., you create suggestion wireframes, right? That this is what my goal with the product is, and if you have senior folks, you can just leave this as it is with the headline, and they will fill up the details, right? And then we come to the types of tickets. Now, if you see headline number 5.1, these are all part 5.1.1, 5.1.2. These are sub headlines under it, right? If you're defining tickets, what all types exist, right? In what states can they exist? What are the types by redemption type, right? Now, redemption type is a mobile. Yeah, all these are use cases, right? All these, and which will later on go on to define workflows. So this is another sort of use cases, right? That when we go by date time specifications, right? Date time duration specifics, we call. These are all the types of possible information that is highlighted, right? For example, you're going on a fixed date for a fixed time for a fixed duration, which is most tickets. A cinema ticket is this kind of ticket, right? Versus you have flexible date, flexible time, and fixed duration, right? This is typically your entry passes. You can only enter a bowling arena for 1 hour, but anytime during the day or anytime during the week or whatever. So these are different types of tickets that we are defining by different classifications, right? Then we have a special note on handling third-party tickets because we don't get that kind of control. So they are handled separately. Then again, if there's a very special case, right? We start to come to that. Another thing we define is that typically that most cases, one booking results in one ticket. But in future, this will change. You can buy multiple tickets together, a cart behavior. So this will change. We'll need to introduce a new entity called order, right? Because you paid for one order, then earlier, right now you go to tickets section in Headout app. That is also your receipts because you paid for single ticket one time. But when this happens, you will have to create a new section called orders because you paid for one order, but it can generate multiple tickets, right? So how do we handle that? Then we go to customer communication and notification. When is customer emailed? When is it an in-app notification? You will have a popular, how does Slack decide to send you a notification? This is where it came from a PRD, right? Like this. So this is how we define how we send notification. Then what is the difference between a structure of booking and order? This could be moved into the logical data model that we're talking about. Then we come to structured data. Now we're defining that all tickets now should be moved to structured data. What are the structured data fields, right? Which we have defined in the sheet. So as you can see, we don't necessarily put everything here, but we put links to the source of truth here, right? So this is structured data field. These are all the fields that need to go in, the structure of the backend, and this is how they're defined. These are the variables that they can go. For example, under accessibility, health restrictions are open text field, right? But a host title, like what is a host called? Are they called guide, tour guide? Are they called host or staff? Contact our staff, contact our tour guide, or contact our host. You will have a drop down. You can select that in this ticket, which terminology is more appropriate, right? So this is linked from
that are also mentioned.
Right. All the constraints are mentioned, validations will be mentioned, and we'll keep fleshing it out as and when we get nearer, right? And these two things, as you can see, are work in progress, which is changes in the reservation section, which is ticket section for the customer, and changes in the admin panel that will be required for the staff to manage this new sort of tickets, right? These are under discussion right now. We don't have clarity around this. So they are and will I be the decision maker as a product manager on all of this? No, I will be the person who is responsible for getting these decisions made and then documenting them, right? Most of these decisions will be a collaboration between ops and engineering, right? And then we come to the last part, typically, which is non-functional requirement. These are typically related to performance, ops, quality, right? Let's say you are saying that let's say you work in Book My Show. You're making digital tickets. Now you say that digital tickets there should be a person sitting, at that place where these digital tickets are redeemed, helping people out so the experience doesn't go bad. Is that a functional requirement? No, that's an operational requirement. This is where you put it. The mobile ticket should load offline. Is that a functional requirement? Sure, they have to write this, etc., but we don't care how do you do this. That's a non-functional requirement. The ticket should load in X seconds. The page should load in X seconds, right? These qualitative metrics or quantifiable qualitative metrics, which is an odd thing, but which are not logical decisions, but are like benchmark decisions. right?
Correct.
Should complete in X amount. Every support ticket related to this should be answered in 24 hours. These are non-functional requirements that you write. Then you typically have a continuous discovery or release plan. This is where typically a product marketing manager comes in bigger companies, where they have a product release plan, go-to-market plan. How do we roll this out? This is a stage release, or this is like who all will be involved? Much percentage of people will be rolled out to. How do we communicate this? For example, you work at Cred, right? Cred came out with a new Morphic update. It was first rolled out to Android, then rolled out to certain people in iOS, and then being rolled. This rollout plan, what impact does it have, and why do we take this route, is put in here to the GTM or release plan, right? And it will often some people will also include life cycle here, which is also includes how is this product gonna be sunset. If tomorrow
Correct.
you decide to shut down this product, what are the steps you need to take to shut down this product, right? If you're building Instagram, maybe you don't need to think much. Maybe you just need to give them data export for 90 days and then you're done. You're a fintech product. You're a credit card company. To shut down all credit cards, you must make sure all liabilities are taken off, right?
Right.
So you will put that here in the sunset plan, that this, when you, because tomorrow when new product manager picks it up, they may forget, they may not know the nuance. So you write it down there and then, that to shut down this product, these all requirements will be required. That you tell accounts, you send notification, the contract is 90 days, you send a 90-day notification, all that comes here. And then you have other references. Often we add another table for open questions, but right now these days we are using comments in Google Sheets to do that.
Right.
Just tag the relevant person with the open question and they start resolving it. So
Sure.
this is roughly a structure of PRD, what it looks like and what it talks about. And as a product manager, you own this piece. You don't necessarily write and decide each and every piece, but most likely you get these decisions made, right? For example, I don't know what all fields go, what all titles our staff can be given. Host
Correct.
guide, tour guide, I don't know. But if I see two very close enough titles, that's where I help resolve that conflict, right? And at times I'll realize, oh, in English that word is close enough, but in German it's not close enough. In German, these two words mean very different things and you don't want to confuse them. Then I'll go and document that, right, as a product manager, that we keep these two words separate in English still, and they are two separate words, because in other languages these are not the same words.
Correct.
Right. So these are the nuances. Again, like language is something specific to my domain, because we are international sellers of tourist material, right? If you're working in a next billion product, it will be very different thing for you, right? It will be different kind of language problems for you, right? So this is what I meant by like why it is so hard to define again and again. You keep going back to define a product management role, and that is why your agility and flexibility to pick up new skills and domain knowledge becomes critical. And yep, that's product specifications, and that's how it
Amazing.
looks like.
Amazing. Amazing.